everyone who's joining us today, or indeed everyone who will be listening to this session post-event. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Maria Serbanovska. I'm the co-founder of FlightProud, and I'll be moderating this wonderful panel of fantastic ladies in advanced air mobility professionals, extremely knowledgeable, fantastic, inspirational individuals. So honored to be here. Without further ado, we'd like to introduce everyone. We decided that I'll do short introductions, but hopefully ladies have provided me with some statistics, with some sort of key points, so hopefully everyone will be happy. And so please welcome Marlene Conway-Diaz is one of our fantastic speakers. She's the founder and president of the Diversity Development Network of Canada, which focuses on development of infrastructure and supports to enable all stakeholder groups, diverse organizations, industry organizations, academia, government agencies, and individuals, all to create a reciprocal conduit for connection and collaboration. Also, as sort of one statement that I've asked for everyone to provide me with, a fantastic potentially piece of data, statistics that everyone's fascinated by, or that individual's fascinated by. Marlene is very fascinated with the fact that as the AAM industry sector is an emerging state and will require thousands of highly qualified people to support the projected growth of $115 billion in the United States alone by 2035. Equality and diversity is indeed a core strategic pillar for success and workforce empowerment. Welcome, Marlene, it's a pleasure to have you here. And moving on to our next speaker, Janet Warder. She's the president and CEO of MHI Aerospace Canada. She leads a very diverse team of over 400 mechanics, engineers, and technical members. She believes that as a female engineer executive, she has a responsibility to be proud, humble, and available to other females and upcomers to help aerospace design inclusivity. She joined aerospace because it was sexy, and she wants to bring it back to be the industry of choice, because diversity is how to bring different ideas and how we can build a competitive advantage in Canada. Welcome, Jenna. It's great to have you here. And our next speaker, Maureen Geddes. So Maureen works in organizations across Canada and internationally on all aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion, with a particular interest in gender, Indigenous reconciliation, building community, and inclusive culture. I'm sure she didn't give herself enough credit, but we'll definitely give you enough opportunity to talk much more about your work and about your passion, Maureen. So it's great to have you here. And last but not least, Felicia. So Felicia Jean, she's been a systems engineer in aerospace for over 15 years. She's led complex safety critical avionics development for most of her life and recently joined the eVTOL world. She's currently working for the startup called Archer in Palo Alto, California. And for those of you who don't know Archer, I'm sure Felicia will be telling us much more about it. Ladies, it's amazing to have you here. And indeed, our panel discussion is talking about inclusivity and profitability. And so when we say include, support them, I'm thinking potentially, Marlene, maybe you'll be able to help us with this one. Is there any statistics? Do we actually rely on some evidence? Do we as employees really need to offer the opportunities to individuals from those various backgrounds, or really is it more of a personal note? Basically, talk to me about the background behind that.
Thank you so much, Maria. I have looked at several reports, and I'll make those available as links so that people can do that. But they're very common themes that are continually reinforced. So from McKinsey's May 2020 report on diversity, how diversity wins and how inclusion matters, there's a couple interesting statistics. So companies with more than 30% women in their executive teams outperform as much as 48% to companies who have less than that within their executive teams. So that's quite a significant factor. As well, hiring from a diversity perspective is not enough. We can certainly make attraction campaigns and things to attract women and other diverse groups in, but retention is critical. The quote that you had mentioned about 115 billion by 2035, that's going to require 280,000 jobs in order to support of highly skilled people. That's just United States alone. So if we want to keep people, drivers of pay and remuneration is a key factor. Also, the corporate culture and the workplace culture. So if we really want to keep these great people that we bring in order to support them and support the innovation cycle and retain them, we're going to have to really embrace inclusivity within our workplace. And this hits home by another report and study that was done by the Boston Consulting Group that says that companies that employ a very diverse group of people have as much as a 45% increase in innovation and therefore output and profitability. And in fact, these other reports go on to say that diversity is actually a core enabler of growth and profitability. And in fact, it's a competitive advantage, and it has to become a strategic key core fabric of an organization in order to make it really profitable. The other thing just to consider when we think about the AAM market, there's a lot of competition for these skills in other sectors already existing in aerospace and aviation, helicopter, rotor, in all kinds of, look at Felicia's example in avionics. Those skills are required in almost any highly technical advanced manufacturing sector, not even just aerospace, defense, and space, but when you look at the marine industry as an example, and transportation, they all really require the same things. So if we want, I think we have an amazing opportunity from establishing a whole new sector to embrace these core values right from the beginning and make it different, differentiate ourselves, and make it an attractive, sexy place to be. Thank you.
No, this is wonderful. Thank you very much. And indeed, I can see the very solid data, solid support. And I think we're now not only talking about more of a personal level, how we have to be inclusive of all humans around us, but indeed there's solid data, as I said, to support it. This is fantastic. I'm very interested, you've mentioned other industries as well. So I know, of course, we're all still in COVID-19. Here being based in the UK, we're still very much dealing with the consequences, and we're still not very much decided how to come back stronger and what's ahead, and indeed how do we as individuals and organizations build back better and stronger. And it's not just about advanced air mobility industry. I'm sure we've got listeners and indeed our presence all over the world. Do you think we can and should utilize technology and diversity as some of those most powerful tools to enable that future success? Meaning, do we basically take this opportunity and take this time when we're still, everything's very much flexible, we haven't gone back to the normal, how it was before, to very much change and shape that normal, shape that future? Marlene, that would be fantastic to hear your opinion. And Maureen, I think you'll have some fantastic points to add to this as well. Ladies, I'll let you go.
Thank you so much. It's interesting, that specific question, because how I connected with CAAM as an organization was exactly on that pillar, on the diversity pillar, diversity and technology. And this is our opportunity to create something that isn't here already. So I'm 100% supportive, and I'm mindful of time, so I'm going to let Maureen bounce on that.
Oh, thanks, Marlene. I definitely see a huge opportunity. The silver lining in COVID is the opportunity for us to come together in community in new ways. And I say in community, I was listening to Anna speak in her opening keynote and talking about the importance of building relationships, and both with the tribal communities, with all the different communities, coming together in new ways. I do want to share a couple of quick stats as Marlene did earlier. If I can get my window to just share, pardon me, there we go. And first is from Harvard Business Review, and it was, there we go. First is from Harvard Business Review, and they did a piece on saying that that enough about the business case for diversity already. It's not about just the profitability. Well, I'd say yes, and They are accurate, that all of the studies that show the it's a direct correlation between more diversity and more profit, and it's the jury's out on whether that's a direct causation, because it's usually more complex than that. But Forbes in November, Forbes magazine did a wonderful rebuttal on that piece that I thought covered it really well, and talked about while it is about more of them bottom line profit, it is essential for us, and it's so obvious that women, and I'll just quote them here, that the need for gender balance isn't rocket science or air science here. It's obvious to leaders measuring the increasing share of women in their talent pipelines, customer bases, requirements for RFPs, and multi-stakeholder pressure. And their measurement is this stat that I loved, that the world's GDP would increase by 26% to almost 30 trillion if employment opportunities were equal for women. And yet globally, we know that 2.7 billion women in the world are banned from doing male exclusive jobs. So I use that as an opportunity to say most of the people on this call are already comfortable with, in many ways, with being in an industry where it hasn't traditionally been women leading, and in tech and in science. And now we have the opportunity, we know the science behind and the practices and the policies and the structures behind how do we create the spaces so we do feel comfortable, stand up and own it and be bold and say, you know what, we do need a women's network in my organization. And we do need to have not only, for example, the global diversity and inclusion benchmarks, and I'll include all these references, same as Marlene, these national and international places where you can get at your fingertips all kinds of best practices, but you need them within your own industry. So the diversity group, that network that Marlene has started, is brilliant for this sector. And then to work within that and have your own different identity groups, as Anna was talking about in her company, for company to encourage employees and people to come together and join that. Just build community, build relationships one at a time. I worked, Transport Canada was hosting, I saw somebody on the call from Transport Canada from, back in early 2000s, they did a 3-day conference with people from across the country just on diversity, equity and diversity alone. This has been around a long time. I use that as an example, but it's more in depth now in terms of, they're much more sophisticated in our understanding of how do we address the realities of the biases that humans still have about what gender does what and doesn't do what. Throw all that out the window, know that we can do anything we want to do, anytime we want to do it, but we do it best together. We do it, we build the strength and the network and the community and the environment, and we can, you know, I say we lead the world in this new industry and these new ways of being, and I'm so thrilled to hear the strength of these voices and had the opportunity to honor these women and to work with them. So I'm going to stop talking now. I work in all industries, and this one is rocking. This is a real place to be. It's exciting. It is sexy. Don't have to try to be sexy. It just is. And fun. So yes, go ahead.
Sorry, can I just add one other little statistic while we're just talking about this? In a Deloitte's millennial study, it was very interesting. 74% of millennials felt that if they were looking for a job, a key criteria of, you know, selecting a place to work is in fact inclusivity. So I think that it's really becoming more and more important, and we have to consider more than just women. Inclusivity and diversity is way more than strictly gender-based. It's also cultural, and also encompasses disabled, veterans, Indigenous. There's a huge number of stakeholders within that. So I just think we need to be mindful of all of those players and constituents when we're looking at how to shape the industry.
Of course, so it is definitely about all sorts of human diversity, isn't it? It's very much being mindful that, yes, of course, we're here ladies, and we're talking, I guess, about our experiences and our background and some of the pain points perhaps we'll touch upon a bit later, and why we're here and why we're so passionate to very much introduce others to this field. But indeed, again, I'm sure there are plenty of other individuals from different ethnic backgrounds, different religious backgrounds, whatever they may be, and we definitely need to be mindful of those, absolutely. Thinking about that, and indeed talking about other individuals that are watching this webinar, I'm certain there will be a number of early careers looking to enter the advanced air mobility space. What do you think, ladies? Does an image of a professional in advanced air mobility already exist, or is it still up for us to very much shape that image? Is there anything that we as ladies in advanced air mobilities and as a wider community, wider advanced air mobility community can or indeed should do to make our work appealing and ensure a diverse workforce? I know we've mentioned the word sexy, you know, it's a sexy industry indeed, but what can we do to inspire and promote advanced air mobility as an exciting career opportunity? And perhaps, Jeanette, maybe you can start us on this one.
So I'm really sad that I brought up that I joined aerospace because I thought it was sexy at the time. And that was, I'm not going to age myself, but that was probably 25 years ago. And at the time when I had to decide after graduating engineering what I wanted to do, I really wanted to go aerospace. I thought it was sexy. I wanted to, you know, help fly people from one location to the other, and that's what I wanted to do. We don't seem to be able to attract those females anymore, and I don't know why. I don't have anybody. That's why I said one of the things I really believe in is that I need to, as an executive, as an engineer, to get out there and to get out to the schools and to get out to associations just to pull in that diversity. Because, you know, Marlene, you're right, diversity is not just females. But here at MHICA, we represent 66 different countries. I'm not struggling here with diversity of nationalities. I need to bring the diversity of female thinking, females to my organization. If you were to ask the team on the floor, do you have equality with females in your organization? They would say, of course we do. We have a president and CEO that's a female. Of course we do. What do you mean? After me, there's less than 2% of our managers that are females.
Right.
Less than 2%. But it's not that we just don't have them in the workforce. We're still at less than 10% overall.
Yes.
I can tell you though, 15 years ago at a facility in Mississauga, when MHI first came to Canada from Japan, there wasn't even a female bathroom. So that's where we started from. So we're moving and we're trying to move there, but it's a slow train. So Marlene brought up how the industry is going to blow up. It's going to blow up by 2035. And I did a little bit of a calculation and I thought, if we want to change the individuals that are going to be interested in this industry, who do we need to talk to? We need to start to get out, believe it or not, to the 11-year-olds.
Absolutely.
We need to figure out how, because those are the individuals that are going to graduate university in 2035. And if you don't have that basis of the engineers, the STEM students coming out and thinking that this is an industry for them, we're not going to have the ability to promote within and retain those employees because they're not even going to come to us. We just posted for a job for a quality engineer. We had over 300 applicants. 2 were female. How sad is that? So I feel we're doing something wrong with those 11-year-olds, with those kids, and going back even to, you know, 6-year-olds saying I'm not good at math and science. I had one of those. I have a 15-year-old that even still, until I kind of shake her, says, but mom, I'm a girl, I'm not good at math. It's like, and I'm her mom. So there's something that we're doing wrong. So we need to think of designing inclusivity differently at a younger age. Look at TV shows. You know, I kind of look at the TV shows she watches. She watches Grey's Anatomy, doctor. She watches Suits. She says she wants to be a lawyer. There's nothing out there for the technical side. Even, you know, pilots. There's a show about flight attendants. There's not a show that has a female pilot. Again, if you would have asked me 25 years ago, I would have told you that this conversation was ridiculous. Why should we have to do those things to promote females to want to be in this industry or these industries? Because I got here on my own. I actually shouldn't say that. I actually wanted to be a math and science teacher. I didn't have the marks to get into university to be a math and science teacher. And I thought, oh, what else can I do? Oh, let me try engineering. I didn't have a passion for it. I had a passion for math and science. And I decided, okay, let's give it a try. And then at least if I'm done and I can't get into teachers college, I can do something. And then then from there, I had a passion. And designing inclusivity for me started back then. In high school, when I applied to Queen's University, I got a call from the dean. Hi, how are you? Tell me a little bit about yourself. Any questions you have? You know, have you decided what university you want to go to? I just thought they called everyone until I went to the school and realized the dean only called the females because they wanted to boost their numbers. So back then, 25 years ago, they were trying to design inclusivity. And if you look at it, Queens is one of the leaders in engineering students that are female. Still not where I'd like to see it in the mechanical side of the schooling, but they're definitely, so we do need to figure out what we do. We need to get ourselves out there, talking to our daughters, talking to our nieces, figuring out what we can do to make sure that they know, again, like Maureen said, we can do whatever we want to do, but we need to give them the background to say, let's stay in the math and sciences so that we have that basis to then do whatever they want to do. Don't hold them back. Make sure you give them the tools that they can succeed in this industry and any other industry that they want to.
Indeed, no, fantastic, fantastic insight. Thank you so much, Anna, for sharing. Unfortunately, Marlene will need to be leaving us in a couple of minutes' time, but thank you so much for your participation, for your insights, Marlene. It's been fantastic having you here, and I know indeed you have so much to share with us. So for all the attendees, we'll be sending you loads and loads of different helpful resources, all of those reports that we've mentioned, and anything else. So
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
everyone. We'll see you again. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you. And now coming back to your point, Anna, I think it's very, very interesting. You're talking about young audiences, and you know, I thought when I was asking that question, I sort of immediately thought about early careers. You know, students very much in university who have decided on their career path. Although one of our attendees, Jeremy has mentioned that his daughter is at 12 and she's already talking about advanced air mobility with her friends at school. And then I remembered that Flight Crowd, the organization that I represent, that one of the more recent projects of ours was indeed a set of posters and a number of different tasks and set of interviews that we've conducted with our industrial partners, and indeed a quiz, all to inspire students aged 11 to 14 to consider a career in advanced air mobility. So I'm completely forgetting, you know, what I'm preaching here, but no, I just thought, I absolutely agree. And the reason we started with that project ourselves is because absolutely, I hear what you're saying. I think we will be losing so many ladies, so many people, individuals in general, who will just think, oh, you know, I'm not good enough at maths, I'm not good enough at science to be an engineer. Or indeed, people from not just STEM backgrounds, but arts and sciences and humanities, languages backgrounds, business background, thinking, oh, that doesn't, you know, it's nothing to do with me. So it's just, you know, it's all about technology, it's all about the vehicles, it's nothing to do with me. We really want to show that AAM is, yes, it is about the vehicle is exciting, technology is exciting, and indeed the aircraft is something that will indeed deliver on the operational side. However, there's so many people that will need to support that whole ecosystem, because of course we're talking about the operations, we're talking about user experience, everyone from design to regulators to governments and so on and so forth. So really, I think it is absolutely necessary to include and indeed engage with the early careers and students, school students, to very much share what we are doing as an industry. So it was great to hear what we're on the same page, James. I'm sure we all are. Felicia, I would love to bring you into the conversation as well. Again, I know many of us, and we've heard even now part of this discussion, we had various experiences where we weren't necessarily valued, we weren't necessarily heard, or even asked to contribute to a project or even a discussion. So can we see advanced air mobility risking to become that one of those unreachable and one of those red tape industries that maybe traditional aerospace industry is seeing, or defense industry is like? Again, is it all about needing to be a certain gender, certain nationality, a certain ethnicity background to fit in? Or do you feel that it's really, we're breaking the barriers here and we're really building a completely new, fresh, absolutely inclusive industry? Indeed, does it in this industry, where you come from, your background, or are we looking at to attract the best talent?
First of all, thank you for this opportunity to speak out, because I've been in the aerospace industry for quite a while, my entire life, and have stuck with it. And really, there is no red tape. It's such an exciting time for the aerospace industry because of advanced air mobility, because this is finally the new frontier for us. We're not just talking about giant transport category, you know, Boeing aircrafts that seats a couple hundred people. We're talking about smaller airplanes that is sustainable, smaller airplanes that's gonna come into your daily lives, help you spend less time commuting, help you reach the unreachable areas, that's vertical takeoff and landing, or drones delivering packages to your household. So it's really becoming closer and closer to your daily living with this industry. And with this industry, it's all about how can we make it happen? How can we have more people joining us and have the diversity? So when we're hiring, we don't look at your ethnicity, with your gender. It's all inclusive. The more the talent, the better, because we need so many people, right? So we never look at a person because of, you know, you got red hair, because you're a different ethnicity. We look at how qualified you are. And it's not just STEM, it's all about other parts of the industry that need people too. For example, we have many females that are recruiters. We have females coming in as marketing people. We can have designers. It doesn't matter what your gender is. You could be in the legal side of things. You could be on the business PR side of things. You could be in the HR side of things too, right? So it's such a new, brand new emerging industry that's bringing people from the aerospace, traditional aerospace world, the space aerospace world, the defense aerospace, and the eVTOL aerospace, as well as people in automobile, because a lot of the investors are from the automobile manufacturers. So batteries, propulsions, motors, and people from basically all around who want to contribute. So it's very, very inclusive. There's no red tape at all.
No, that's wonderful. Honestly, I think absolutely, this is a fresh breath of air, isn't it? I think, me personally, I remember when I was studying aerospace engineering, I know how a number of my my peers left into banking because it was a bit better paid, or indeed went into something else, computer science, because it was more exciting, they thought. They didn't stay in aerospace engineering because it was just dull, and, you know, it seemed like to be a part of this industry, you'd only be sat in front of your desktop working for 20 years on little, you know, small detail on an aircraft that may not even fly. I think here we're talking about building an industry that is so fast-paced, so innovative, that really it's indeed, you can just come in and try, give it a go, and then if you don't like it, probably, you know, you can go into another part of this ecosystem and indeed find something else for yourself to do. You don't have to stick in one job. Again, very much flexibility, I think, is a part of this ecosystem. Ladies, this is going to be an open discussion, really, just for all of you to jump in. So please do to give me a shout whenever you have something to think. But sort of talking a bit about, I guess, employers and diversity, equality, and inclusion. We know that it's very high on everyone's agenda. It's very high on the agenda for the local governments. You know, we're all trying to be better, but do some employers, have you had any experiences, do some employers still see it as a box ticking exercise? And how, you know, are there ways for us to be proactive indeed in supporting those around us without any bias? As a community, as professionals, on a more personal level, how can we ensure that we share those best practices, and how do we ensure that we indeed sort of, I guess, convert everyone to be as supportive and as inclusive and diverse as we all are? Any ideas, any thoughts, please?
I'd like to jump in with an idea on that one, if I may. So as I go through so many different industries across, and I hear the same thing, like when I compare what Janet had to say and Felisa had to say, you can have those two conversations within the same company, and you can have them in different companies. So for example, you know, you have a department or a certain area of the company that's very diverse, the leadership gets it, everything's flowing, there's no barriers, no red tape, everything's great. Then you go, then you get promoted into another part of the company, and all of a sudden you feel like you step back 20 years, and the boss is kind of like surprised that you came back after your maternity leave, because, you know, he thought you'd probably stay home, and all of a sudden it's just like somebody popped the air out of your balloon, and you feel like you've gone back. So I think the conversations, I come back to really, my biggest suggestion, I think, is to, I mentioned developing the groups, whether it's diversity committees and structures, but having group and connection responsibility within the organization. So having diverse responsibility that includes line management and high potential, highly regarded, successful career individuals, part of that diversity conversation and that strategy, and engaging within the company, and then positioning and bringing in the data that's relevant to the industry and with the government in whatever country, and all of that framing. But it really has to be a business case and a relationship building within the organization, so that you can tailor specific examples. And you spend a lot of time, I'll give a quick example. In the energy industry, when I was the first person to manage equity and diversity for them, we moved from 6% women in the management group, supervisory and technical, to 21% in less than 5 years. And then within a couple of years after that, to our first female president, and 50-50 at the executive level. So we went from, you know, from very few women to it being the norm. And that was done, a lot of that was with a broad-based team, and there's a number of pieces, but one of the key ones to me was that we really focused on what we weren't, as well as what we are. It's not reverse discrimination, it's not quotas, but it is this, it is this. And that was years ago. And today I would add that you have to learn some, you won't be not enough to be diverse and talk about inclusive. You want to talk about colonial and hierarchical histories and structures and ways of being, and talk about Black Lives Matter, and talk about BIPOC, Black and Indigenous persons of color, talk about some of the histories in the communities. If sometimes, you know, again, it becomes what languaging and what understanding in your environment is what really works. But you want to acknowledge some of the histories that still have the numbers showing that even if you don't feel you've faced any barriers, and maybe you haven't, that's wonderful. There are still there's still perceptions of barriers for students in school, as Janet was saying, and the lack of industry. And so my last comment, I want to, mindful of the time I'm taking, is I'm so excited about going in, and Janet, we don't have to have you go in physically, of course you can anyway, but let's get a marketing team on someone like Janet. Hello, like if she's willing to be here on this call, market the heck out of her, and find the ways, and do a little, make it funny, like make fun, get viral videos going, make common the presence of women, so that it's a norm, so that the role models hit the direct to the students, and we're connecting with those 11-year-old girls, and we're showing them that this is a future that's fun, and all the different faces that you can see, and they see themselves reflected. With technology and social media and movies and such, we can make that happen. And I think it'd be a far better use of industry time and money than slogging away in the bureaucracy of the companies. And yes, you do have to work at that. You do have to change your policies. You have to remove the barriers. You do systems reviews, but you can get your teams internally to do a lot of that and compare and do best practices. That's not the sexy stuff. It still has to happen. But the real change for the students, I think, can be done with leaders like the women on this call and this conference, and listening. Thank you.
No, that's wonderful. I mean, difficult to add anything to this, but I know we've got a comment from Diana in the chat, and she's very much saying she's not sure we even need to aerospace engineering degrees. Indeed, you know, how many of the advanced air mobility degrees, or do you need to go through certain training to belong? Do you, you know, we've spoken about sort of the I guess not needing to have certain nationality or ethnic background, but indeed, is there an educational requirement? Yes, of course, you can go and study as much as you can, all the different market and different papers and everything, all the news about advanced air mobility. But in terms of actual training, who do we need to be? What do we need to have, in our brains, if you wish, to fit in?
So I would like to answer that. Really, this is about empowerment. Empowerment about who you want to be. The industry is so diverse that you could have a physics degree, you could have a marketing degree, you could have a business degree, or you don't have to have a degree and be an apprentice to be like someone who is really good at electrical troubleshooting and still be a technician. Some of the best designers and engineers that I ever worked in the past didn't have a degree. Some of them went into military. Some of them just became apprentice for something, and they trained and they worked their best to be the best of what they could become. And so they worried about having a degree, but honestly, I thought they were the best designers, even without the degree. So I think it's about empowering people to feel that they could do it, no matter what they want to do, without worrying about the degree, without worrying about like which best school you went to, and just like try your best to enter this industry.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. I think absolutely. I think barriers are really in our heads, and really, I don't see advanced air mobility building those barriers for hopefully for many years to come. Indeed, this is an industry that is developing on a global scale, so I'm sure there will be opportunities to relocate if you want to, but there will be opportunities locally, indeed. And indeed, not only in building this and operating this this industry, but supporting it. Think about all the other jobs, all the hospitality, for instance, industry that will, I'm sure, be supporting it. Looking at our chat, we have fantastic messages coming through. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, who are already participating in this discussion. So one of the questions from Christiana was, do your organizations have formal women's networks established? And if so, how are they being leveraged? Apologies to ladies, perhaps that's to all of you. Any formal women's networks? Anything we're supporting? Anything we can point people to?
So I can answer that. I'm actually sad to say we as a company, we do support women in aerospace, but belonging to women in aerospace is just a small portion. I kind of listen to things Maureen's saying and Felicia's saying. I need to do more. I need to do more in my position to make sure that our organization is welcoming to females, is welcoming to those that are, we have the same experience here, Felicia, as far as individuals from the shop floor. I have two around my table that they don't have formal educations. The issue is females, and I think it was said at the beginning, females need to be, someone called my stepdaughter proud and loud. And I thought more females need to be proud and loud. And the reason for that is, again, it was said in the main room, resumes come to us or jobs get posted. I might look at it and I might have 2 of the 5 things. And I'm like, not, as females, too many of us do this. I'm not experienced enough, right? I'm not experienced enough. Whereas our male counterparts think they have 1 out of the 5 and go, I'm going to apply. So again, there's that whole, try to make it or fake it till you make it, right? But as far as having that women's network established, I think that's something important that organizations need to do. We don't do enough of. And again, like Maureen said and Marlene prior, it's not just women, it's that diversity and that inclusion and trying to figure out what as an organization we could do. I always felt, up to the last few years, I always felt that it'll happen organically, it'll just happen, but it just doesn't. I think that organizations need to belong to networks, get involved in these types of things. I'll be honest, nobody on my team knows I'm here today. And I kind of think, how sad is that? They should be listening. right? So again, you know, to Maureen, getting out there and putting it out on social media, putting it on our portals, that these are the things that we're involved in, that we feel that is important to grow our organization, to make us better, to make us more profitable, bringing those different ideas to the table. So from my standpoint, I'm kind of embarrassed to say, you know, besides belonging to Women in Aerospace, I don't think that I do enough, that my organization does enough for women and other diverse groups.
I think post-event, one of the first actions, ladies, we have to set something up. We have to get on with it.
And I would so encourage the people listening on this call to just do it, to just go directly to their president, their vice president, and said, hey, can we start a women's network? The odds that you'll get a yes are extremely high. And if you're willing to do it, I think if somebody came up to Janet after hearing this call and said, you know, could we do this? They're going to get a yes, right? And it is really remarkable. And I would just add one thing: watching them through so many sectors and so many places across the country. Be ready if you're in an organization that's predominantly male, then be prepared always to think about what you're not. So number one, be inclusive. The men are welcome, absolutely welcome. By the way, most won't come. They're not interested, but that's okay. But you want to also tell them what you're not. This is not about male bashing. This is not about we're just a conspiracy working against you. Now what are they doing? What are they up to? Why can't we come? Yes, you can come. Here's what we're talking about. Do you want to come? Oh no, forget it. I don't want to be there. Fine. And then other speakers you'll have in, because you'll have someone like Janet and they're going, I'm coming. Can I come? And of course you can. So, you know, you have different events that draw and have different subject matter, and women will develop it. And I've mentioned in the chat, catalyst.org, very active in Canada, women's network organization, and it's a phenomenal group for really building these resources and creating the connections and you call them, they will just help you. So you don't have to, you can, little tips that I'm giving here, they will go through the science of all the tips and how to work it, and make sure you don't stick your foot in your mouth, and ensure that you have a good start.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Just got another message from Michael, and before I actually read some of his questions, so I think this is very much related to what he's saying here. I think so. Yesterday, I was listening to a conversation on one of the social media platforms, and people were saying, you know, we have, especially in such industry, in STEM industries and engineering, a lot of organizations are designing even our marketing and PR material with the mind of the male user, of the end male user. So, for example, you know, you're going to a science fair and you're bringing a bag of goodie bags, and a lot of the time people have stress release toys. And that, if you think about it, I personally, I tried to remember when was the last time I visited a science fair and I see this stress release toy, and I thought, you know what, I never picked up one because it never appealed to me. And indeed, a lot of the time, those marketing materials and those, you know, little goodie bags, they are designed for the specific user in mind. A lot of the time, it's a male user. Why can't we, for instance, give away nail varnishes, as you know, branded nail varnishes? Because again, because we want to include females. That was quote. This is not my idea, by the way, but I absolutely loved it. I thought this is genius. You know, why do we seriously just think, oh, you know, it has to be a stress release ball because probably, you know, all the females will pick up one because we're all so stressed. No, we need to be very much mindful of different end users, different potential employees for our companies, and different ways of how to engage with them. And so coming back to Michael's message now, he's saying a lot of it, he very much agrees with Felicia, your comment, and you know, of course, we shouldn't perhaps worry about the degrees, and we should empower women to just apply to positions. But a lot of the time, hiring managers are very much not caught up to this mentality in his experience. And so his question is, how do we change this side of the equation? How do we change that employer mindset? For example, there's a massive gap between the percentage of women graduating with relevant degrees versus the percentage of women at the relevant jobs in companies. And he's also saying he's worried about placing responsibility so much on women and underrepresented folks to be empowered versus changing the behaviors and unconscious bias of those hiring managers. In other words, what do we do, especially with the hiring managers? How do we, again, portray ourselves, not just portray ourselves, how do we actually change our mindsets of those who are, the hiring managers, those who are very much looking after our workforce, to be inclusive?
So I can speak to that because I'm a hiring manager myself, and when I interview people around the world for positions, honestly, because I'm female and I'm all about qualification, I never look at the gender. I never look at where you're from. So I think it's an intrinsic and conscious thing that people make assumptions that there is this difference. But honestly, when you look at any company that hire people, really, the first thing that comes in mind is how qualified are you for this job? They're not going to look at you as thinking, oh, you're a female, I think you're going to be less qualified than any other candidates. I'm talking who is a male. I don't think that actually comes to the mind of hiring managers. Now, we could talk about different companies, traditional aerospace companies, new aerospace companies, and non-aerospace companies. But I think in terms of the advanced air mobility companies, because it's so new, there are a lot of startups, it's so fresh, there's so much innovation. Most of these companies are hiring with such mindset too, such that diversity, inclusion is actually promoted. I mean, it's all the way from the top in Archer where we say we want to hire women. If they're female candidates, we want to know who they are. We want to promote all the positions to anyone who's qualified, especially who are female. So I think really it comes to the point where us individually who are attending this webinar, who are in aerospace or in this industry, who want to be in industry, should just consciously realize that subconsciousness of the differences and advocate in your daily life that, hey, there's a difference, really. It's all inclusive. It's diverse. So if we say that we're going to talk to people, we're just going to advocate this industry to anyone, whether you're an 11-year-old girl or you're a 5-year-old child who thinks about, hey, there's something called air taxi, boom, boom, fly around, it doesn't matter. Just advocate. It can come from something so simple into our daily lives where you're talking to someone and someone's asking you, at a checkout, hey, what do you do? Oh, I'm an engineer. What kind of engineering? Oh, eVTOL. It's an exciting new world, and please, look it up. So it can be as simple as that when we approach this topic.
No, fascinating. Ladies, Janet, Maureen, any further comments?
I absolutely agree with Lisa. The issue is, though, like I said, it's that getting those people to the table, right? Getting them to apply to the jobs. That's where we're struggling. That here, where I am, like I said, you want a quality engineer, 400 applicants, 2 were females. How do you, you know what I mean? You want to interview just those 2 females, even if they're not qualified, just to see, what they could bring to the table. But we don't do that. We don't want to be that company that interviews or brings people on just to get the check in the box, right? But there are individuals out there that are qualified, that are smart enough. It's just getting them to do the right programs, or even just to do programs. And you guys bring up very good points. Because that's where my head is always geared towards engineering, but it's the industry as a whole. And I think we need to get out there and figure out how we market the industry. How do we get out there on social media? Maureen brought up funny. I don't know. My daughter is on that Snapchat so much every day. How do we get them in the school, get ourselves into the school to make it exciting? Somebody brought up funny clips. I could probably make a funny clip every day in my office. Like The Office, my daughter always asks me, who's Michael in The Office? Those are the things that interest and get their minds going. And teachers aren't doing it because I don't know if teachers know that this industry is out there, right? Those are the people that are shaping our children. And I, again, commend Jeremy. It's families, it's parents like him that obviously is getting that message out. And we just need to do a better job to make sure that people know that those careers, those industries are out there.
I'd add a yes and to both, and I know if there's more in the chat you probably wanted to address, Mariana. The yes and is that we do want to do all the things that Anna talked about. And I want to point out that, Felicia, you're saying that people aren't thinking, they're not thinking about the bias. That's true, but we do all have unconscious bias. That's just a fact. If you want to test your own, you can go to Harvard's site, Harvard Implicit Association. Millions of people have done it, and you can test your bias on anything, on gender, on age, on race, on all kinds of different things, and you'll see through science that we have biases, and it comes from the societies we grew up in, and the structural things that need to be in place, the recruitment practices, the outreach recruitment, all of the different things, the history. We can't ignore the history that came before us. So somebody comes, we went through this in the banking industry in Canada when we were run by white males, and 80 to 90% of all the employees were women for decades. All the tellers, can you remember this? Some of you who are younger don't know this, maybe, but all the tellers were women, and man, they were furious because they trained the men that became their bosses and who ended up running the company. And I tell you, when you go in, you met a lot of angry women because they were very, very competent, and for decades and for entire careers, they were passed over. And one of the things that we notice is, and you come in, and when you're in some of the history, the legacy industries that were mentioned in the chat, and some of the organizations that have been very hierarchical and become somewhat, because of safety and other good reasons, become almost bureaucratic and structured, and mostly male, these facts exist. The reality is there. And to change that reality for all people, for men and women alike, and it's not about pointing fingers, it's the work on unconscious bias is essential in addition to the system change. And so we don't think we're biased, and we go in with an intent, but we have unconscious biases, and especially white privilege, because when you come to, as a white male or female, you come to a world that is largely run, the power structures run by people who look like you, and we can be willfully blind to the things, because it's not like somebody, you say, I didn't get extra privilege. Nobody, like, I came from a poor background, or I had to fight my way through this, or I did whatever. It's not so much what you didn't, what you faced and overcame, it's what you never faced in the first place. And those are barriers that face a lot more people. And we have, when we're aware of those and we structure that in, I can recommend, turn my head out of the way, the Coast OAC, the Ontario Aerospace Council, has a diversity and bias course that's available that you can, and full disclosure, I helped co-design it, that really gets at all of the different tools that are available, free resources, of endless resources to actually get at this kind of thing and have those discussions and help to change the culture of organizations, in addition to doing your employment systems reviews, examining your hiring practices, informing your committees, and all the other things that you need to do to shift the culture. If you're in an industry that's established and the diversity is not reflected at all levels, then all these things still need to happen. Yeah. I love that you're not facing them, Felicia. I love that. That's the world we're trying to create. That's great.
Yeah. Ladies, I can't believe that an hour almost passed by, and we received an enormous amount of questions towards the very end, so apologies, I won't be able to address all of them. But one final question that I would like to ask all of you, and this is sort of going back to Hannah's comment about encouraging women to apply to the AAM positions. Sort of in one or two sentences, what do we think, what advice would we give to females who are looking to enter this industry? With or without any experience, with or without any understanding of aerospace or indeed advanced air mobility, what would help them to encourage them to be part of it? Felicia, let's start with yourself.
I would say be true to yourself, first of all, and do what you like to do. So if there are gaps between your qualification versus the job posting, then figure out how could you reduce the gap? How could you improve yourself to make yourself qualified for this dream job you want to have? I mean, like, we all face that, right? We've all applied to dream jobs that we didn't qualify, or there's always some higher goal we want to achieve. I would say improve yourself to get there.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Anna, and yourself, what advice would you give?
I would say to believe in yourself, and when people come to you, so I've had it happen to me where probably 10 years ago, somebody came to me for this job that I'm sitting at this company and said, Janet, I think that you could be my successor. And I'm like, you're crazy. I can't do that. So I rejected it. I left. I didn't come to work here. Then something happened and there was another opportunity as a director. I applied, I got the job, and here I am. And I really wish I would have believed in what that individual saw in me that I didn't see in myself. So again, just to have that strength to believe in yourself. And, you know, if you have a job you want, I agree with Felicia, get those accreditations, keep working at it, but don't not apply if you don't have everything, right? Yeah. Don't not apply if that's what you want, even if it's only for them to say, listen, thanks for coming. Here's what you need to do to get where you want to be. Even if that's, and you take that away and then you apply the next time. So again, just to have that faith in yourself.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you very much. And Maureen, yourself, last but not least.
To build on Janet, there are no mistakes, only lessons. Like, go for it, do everything. I had baby number 2. I was going across Canada with Deloitte to take all their managers through a 2-day gender program and their partners, the whole teams. And my second son was born and we were on 50 planes. By the time he was 1, I hired a full-time nanny and just kept going. I mean, things that I thought I would get overwhelmed, say, I can't do this. And I had clients up in Fort McMurray in Alberta thinking that I brought the baby and it was a test of their ability to accept diversity. I'm going, no, I just had the baby and I'm nursing, so, you know, had to be here. So there's just so many ways that you can just make the place more friendly and just do it. Just, if you can just assume that people want you to succeed, that would be my big message, because that's what I found. When you think that they don't because nobody came before you and went that path, just do it anyway. And you will find that you are met with so much support that you didn't dream possible.
No, that's incredible. Ladies, I cannot thank you enough for all your insights, for this discussion. It was incredible to be part of it. Inclusive design is not just profitable, it's a must. And indeed, I think one of the thoughts that we would like to leave you with is we need to design those differences into our workforce, into our workplace, into our mindset. And indeed, it's not just about box ticking, it's about how much better, stronger, successful, sustainable we are all going to be if we are going to include people from various backgrounds. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a pleasure to moderate this discussion. Thank you to CAAM for having us here, and hopefully everyone enjoyed this, and looking forward to staying in touch with everyone. Thank you very much and have a great rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Miigwech.